All right, Volkswagen, proud partner of Irish Rugby, will be putting Irish and New Zealand fans head-to-head in a rugby trivia quiz this Saturday at the Volkswagen Fan TV area on Lansdowne Road. Join Irish Rugby legend Shane Byrne and test your rugby knowledge to win signed jerseys. For more information, see Volkswagen Ireland's social channels. And I'm delighted to say Shane Byrne is with me in the studio. How are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
Not too bad at all. So the All Blacks, when you see them coming to Dublin, what's the first thing you think from your own playing days? Is it kind of some sort of PTSD, fear about the All Blacks, or is it happy memories?
No, neither of the above, I would say. They're the only side I never managed to beat in the international arena, and they'd probably be the only side I'd cheer for England, for them to beat them, because there's a rivalry there that is absolute, and in recent years it's been great to see the gap narrowing all the time, and right to this stage where we can have a good debate about Saturday, which way it might go, genuinely.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll get into that, the breakdown of how this game might go, but of the All Blacks. And I think 2016 has been held up as an example of a time when the All Blacks came to our own backyard and really bullied us after we beat them in Chicago. But I often wonder if we're just forgetting about the past before that. Like, say, when you went there in 2005, famously, they were bullies, I think it's fair to say, lightly on that occasion. And I think perhaps on all your other occasions facing them in a green jersey as well, they showed the cynical edge and they pushed the rules to the very edge of their boundary.
They do, and that's why it's very annoying to play against them, and because you're not just playing against the players in front of you and the tactics that they use, it's that they always get the rub of the green from the ref. There's a whole aura around them that seems to intimidate and make 50-50 decisions always go their way, which is very, very annoying when you're on the park. And they have this ultimate confidence in the way that they play, that they will push the rules right to the edge. And McCaw was the ultimate player, and the guy for executing that plan. But that's, it's well deserved. They are the number one team in the world for the last God knows how many years, rightfully so. And every World Cup, they come up, they raise the bar. In between the World Cups, teams catch up. And I still think that process is happening at the moment. I think that, Ireland leading the charge are really, really catching up, and exactly the way you need to play, particularly to defeat teams like New Zealand.
Yeah, I wonder, is there anything we can learn about how they push the boundaries of those rules?
There is. Look, that's the way it is. Refs aren't there to be man of the match. Refs shouldn't be there to influence the result of the game. They should be there to protect the players, implement the rules exactly the way they are. But the analysis that's done in the opposition now at international level, there's as much analysis done on the referees to see their quirks, see the things that they're hot on, things that they're not so hot on. And you'd be damn sure New Zealand do that to the absolute T. And if they know there's something that this particular ref doesn't really watch for, they will bring it to the absolute level. They will use that to their huge advantage, and that's what they do. But there is no doubt that there's the intimidation factor, that they do intimidate referees, and we've seen so many times through the years and even in recent days where decisions that more than likely would have gone against another side, they always get it.
Yeah, and also in the last couple of days, not just in the England match, but in terms of the way Wayne Barnes has been spoken about in the media, Johnny Sexton's quotes, and then the response from New Zealand. I think fair play to Johnny Sexton.
Absolutely. And I thought Wayne Barnes had gotten over the worst of his refereeing conundrums, but from last year's reffing that he did, it hasn't. As I talked about referees wanting to be the centre of attention, he loves it. Absolutely loves it. And he makes some absolutely daft decisions. And the problem with Wayne Barnes is that it's not the fact that he will make one, it's that if he makes one daft decision, he seems to want to back it up and prove the point and follows on with this ridiculous line of thinking. But, Johnny Sexton, I think, phrased it beautifully in the simple fact is, he's penalised us loads, so therefore we have to adjust. They're going to have to realise, that exactly he is hot on this topic and this topic. The problem with Wayne Barnes is that you never know what he's going to be hot on. Yeah. This week, he flip-flops all the time. But I think Johnny Sexton did it really, really well. Is the simple fact is that you're going to have to adjust and see what he's doing during the day. If by chance it's the scrum or it's the ruck time or the back foot of the ruck or offside or the maul, you just have to adjust as a team straight away. And very much like New Zealand look to exploit that, we just have to be smart and not give him the opportunity to blow his whistle.
And that's the thing. You would like to think that it's not going to be like 2016, given the new tackle laws, that we can't get bullied in that specific way. But knowing the All Blacks, they will find some other way of really annoying our players. And that is also a key part. It's not just them getting away with things that they shouldn't be getting away with. It's also the little seed of doubt that puts into your mind. I'm not sure from your own experiences, when those decisions are going against you, how does that make you feel when you're packing down and you're like, God, I've got 16 men up against me at the moment?
Yeah, no, it is. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating when you know that there's something incorrect going on and you can do absolutely nothing about it, and you can't do it, and you can see the opposition capitalising it all the time. But you talked about bullying there, going back through the years. You know something, you could use the definition that all over the place, but I don't think New Zealand will be able to bully this Irish team, no matter what tactic they take out. They might be well able to annoy this team and frustrate them and do different things, but I don't think they'll be capable of doing it against this side, because I think that these guys have, firstly, a lot of them have played against them plenty of times. They have been on the winning side, and they now, particularly these young guys in the squad, they just don't really care who they're playing. They only want to win, and that's the only thing they're interested in, no matter who it is in front of them. They have the winning habit as we speak, which is a huge thing. We've seen that going down through the years, so many teams that just have that absolute will to win and will get through no matter what it costs, and that's exactly where I think Ireland are at the moment.
It's very interesting you say that, because you start to think to yourself, what if the likes of James Ryan or Dan Levy came into an unsuccessful Irish team? Would they have as much of a winning mentality? It's amazing how important that first year of your international career is.
Yeah, but that combined psyche is something that is grown and nurtured. Like, how many times did we see a great provincial team not succeed? How many times in our, in Irish rugby history, and a good Irish team that should have done so much better, and just for some reason that communal psyche just failed at the last hurdle, or at a vital stage in whatever competition they were playing in. But that's why this group of players, and it's been spearheaded by the guys like the Sextons, the O'Mahanys, who with their absolute, they've been there, done that, on the bad sense of it as well, and been involved in some very, very, hurtful losses to these young guys who basically just know success. And what's that all put together is the simple fact is you have a team that want to win and will do what it takes to win, because it's a lot of times on the pitch it's pushing past that pain barrier, pushing past that, where you would normally go in a game, and just digging right down and getting over that final hurdle.
It's amazing. You could take that clip of what you just said there, and people could say that's exactly the same thing you would say about the All Blacks. It's remarkable that we're building up that culture where nothing but the very best is accepted.
But you see, that's the thing that a lot of people go, like, we're number 2 in the world, which is great, but we deserve to be number 2 in the world. It's taken time to build up to that fact, and it took, a beating the then number 1 side in the world, who are still there, to get to that, and that's added up to it, and we have to have that psyche now. We have to believe that no matter who is out there, we have to take them on, and we have to be able to challenge them, and that's what this squad of players, and Joe Schmidt has done such a good job at creating a squad of players that just are, firstly, they challenge each other, which keeps them on their toes, and secondly, that it used to be if A, B or C are missing, even if A, B are missing, we're in awful trouble. But that's not quite the case. Like, who would have thought, okay, the great Conor Murray isn't, we thought there was a secret he might have been playing, and New Zealand thought that as well. But, the step down no longer is that massive gulf. That's no insult to Conor. Conor certainly hasn't changed. He is still an absolute world-class number 1 player around. But the guys behind him have pushed so hard, and there's 3 of them there who are fighting like dogs to get that number 2 spot. They know it's the number 2 spot, but they still want to be there, and that's what's happening. That happens right throughout the Irish squad, that whenever somebody goes down, we're missing Robbie Henshaw, who I think is one of the best players Ireland have, but Bundy Aki's going to step in there, and there'll be zero issues. Every job, every basic thing that he needs to do, he will do exactly right, and a little bit more on top, and that's exactly what we need.
What did you make of Ian Foster's comments about Bundy Aki this week, saying that he looks like an Irishman?
Listen, and the New Zealand Herald digging up the old thing that we're playing against an Irish side and a New Zealander.
Yeah, well, we actually had that guy on the show this week, the author of that New Zealand Herald piece, Gregor Paul, and
Right.
he said that it's actually different, that there is no double standard, speaking as a person based in New Zealand, that their targeting of Pacific Islanders is totally different to the way we target them. But that's just a hypocrisy there, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Like when one of the Lions test teams that I played against, I think there were only 7 homegrown All Blacks on the team. The rest were Islanders or imports or something like that. Like that, they are the epitome going right the way back to exploiting the rules the way they are. And as I said, that is the rules. Nobody's breaking any rules. Bundy Aki deserves to wear that green as much as anyone else because he followed the rules of international rugby. Are the rules correct? No, and they are going to be changed. That's the way they will be. But, for them to even throw up a debate about it, like, guys get schooled and earmarked from the islands long before they start playing representative rugby. They're brought in, they're naturalised, and then they just go up through the New Zealand ranks, and they just do it a different way. But, listen, we've one of the smallest playing populations. It's the 4th sport in the country. Of all the senior countries, we've very small numbers. So we use the rules exactly to the way we should, and absolutely zero harm in it. And one thing's for sure, Bundy Aki will not be disappointed to be wearing the green at the weekend. He will give absolutely everything about it. And it's an awful shame this debate is even happening anymore. Like, it's just the way it is. Everybody recognises the rule needs changed. It has changed. There we go, move on.
I do want to ask you about the tactics that we're going to see this weekend, because it's very interesting having you in the studio this week, given how intrigued I personally am about the pack and about the line-out and about the scrum this weekend, and especially given what New Zealand showed against England. We'll start with Rory Best. His performance last week was open to a bit of criticism. He was suffering with an injury throughout the summer, didn't play in Australia. At his age, it's going to take a little bit longer from that. And I think we saw last season, to be honest, it was after Christmas when he really started to hit the ground running. But ultimately, there is no time in a Joe Schmidt camp when you can't be on the ground running. In your opinion, how long does it take for him to get back to that level where you're like, he's the captain, he stays in that team? Or is he really looking over his shoulder now?
I think that the nature of the whole squad is you're looking over your shoulder. I don't think even he can settle completely. At some stage the clock is ticking. It's just to see how far it goes. Like last year's Six Nations, he was incredible. He was fantastic. And the one thing he took a lot of grief about the throwing at the weekend, but to me it wasn't. You've got to look at the line out and analyse it, because a hooker can only put the ball into a metre space, square space up in the air. And there's he can lob it a little bit more to add a bit more onto it. The jumper can lean back, but there's only so much he can do. And nearly all of the lineouts that were competed against or were sloppy ball, the ball was where it was meant to be. It was just that they were there as well. To me, the calling was the issue. And, you're meant to find a space where they're not have to rely on the last couple of inches. It shouldn't be a case. And if you can't find a space where they're not, you call movement. You generate that space where they're not and try beat them with fast feet, with quick execution. Look, his throwing is by no means perfect, but that has to be a case. Every time people who aren't in the game go, the line-out didn't work, it's the hooker's fault. It's not the case. If you look at it and you see that ball, if the two sides are up there reaching for the ball and it's hand-tip stuff, then the throw is exactly where it's meant to be. The call is wrong. It's good work by the opposition defence, but you should have it in the repertoire of the line-out that you can create a jump that isn't as closely contested as that is. And that's what we didn't do. And that's, I suppose, what Devon Toner, look, I would have loved to throw into Devon Toner. It would have been an absolute joy. But the simple fact is, it's not just his height and the height he gets off the ground. It's also the fact that his knowledge of the line-out, and he's able to find that space. He's able to use himself as a weapon when needed for the fast ball, for the high ball, but he's also able to go, right, no, we need movement to generate a little gap here that we can get that half foot higher than the opposition, because they won't be quite as ready as we are. And that's the thing that wasn't done last week.
Right, because when you unpack that, it's intriguing when you look then at the England performance then on Saturday, and to me, to the untrained eye, when you look at Dylan Hartley being replaced by Jamie George at half-time, and then pretty much all their lineouts get stolen by Brodie Retallick in the second half, I'm thinking, well, that's the hooker's fault. But really, according to...
You see, the New Zealanders brought their bench on, and it changed the way they defended the line at the same time as Jamie George came on. Now, Jamie George threw a couple of howlers. There's no doubt about that. You know,
but it wasn't entirely his fault.
No, and that's what happened. Retallick got the best of it. But it was the couple of changes they made in the forwards. They changed the way they were defending the line out, and England didn't adapt. And England were still doing what they were doing right the way through the game, which was working to a certain degree. And they just didn't adjust. Added to Jamie George's couple of howlers, and their line-out just fell apart.
What are you thinking as a hooker when there is someone like a second row like Retallick who's absolutely killing you at the line-out and there's nothing you can do?
Yeah, it's a very frustrating. Thankfully, it didn't happen too often, but it is a very frustrating thing. Like, as a thrower, everyone thinks there's a fine art and stuff to it, but the main thing about a thrower is that you miss the opposition. That's the way you throw. So, like, you know what your guys are going to do. So you look at the opposition and you see the little nuances of what they're doing. Like, if you've called a ball to the tail and you see, God, they've read it. I've got to push it a little bit higher. I've got to give my guy as much chance as I can. But when you're Retallick, look, we all know that guy rightfully has the title of the best second row in the world at the moment. And, you know, his ability to read the line out is second to none. He is absolutely superb at it. But you've just got to beat that guy with a different way, with speed, with knowledge, with familiarity with the guys that you have. That's the way you do it. You don't just give him a straight jump where he's already standing. You make him move, because he may read it, but his lifters may not. And that's the key. You need to create a scenario where he can't be as good as he obviously is. You just take away from that ability just that little bit, by a little bit of shifted movement, and then you get up there and then the ball's gone, and sure, away you go.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the most fascinating elements of this game this weekend, as will the scrum. And I did want to get your take on that finally, because Tyke Furlong's actually had a lot of interesting quotes in the newspapers yesterday morning, speaking about the differences between North and Southern Hemisphere scrummaging, which I think we've heard about in terms of different styles over the past couple of years. But he says that the New Zealand style of scrum now is totally different to the one he first faced in 2016. He says they're holding the ball in at the back longer. Is that something that you've seen yourself?
It is. It's something that you got to think about it, that everything about Southern Hemisphere rugby is about just getting the ball going. We've always, from Northern Hemisphere thought our game is probably a bit more tighter, a bit more direct, where they are able to, commit less to the rucks. One or two guys, keep everyone out. Everybody has to generate being able to move hands no matter what position you are. But now it's starting to go back into the power play a little bit, into the scrum, that really taking to the opposition, because you've no idea how much energy it takes out of you to be on the weaker scrum. To be in a position that you're up against a scrum that every time you get down, because you're giving your absolute, but you're still going to end up getting pushed back, and that is totally energy sapping. It really is a hard thing. And when you come out of there, okay, you're programmed to move, your feet start moving, everything, but it takes you a couple of yards to get back into your stride. And that's what New Zealand are now looking to exploit. They have a strong scrum, but it was very interesting to see Ireland against Argentina, who are traditionally, obviously, supposed to be one of the best scrummaging, their history in the countries in the world. The fact is, I think they were laying down a statement for next week against New Zealand. I think it's going to be an absolute ding-dong battle. And to me, I think we're looking at parity there.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think either side. There might be a few occasions where one side gets up and, has a cracker, and then the other one, comes back at it, because I think both sides will have the ability to have a belt at the other one if there's even the slightest mistake, even the slightest error. We've all seen so many times, that a scrum would be dominant for a long time, and then they just switch off for that 1 second, and then they'd end up turning a ball over or giving away a vital penalty. And like even last season that was happening, and against Australia in the summer in particular. But I think the parity when the two of them are getting it right, but expect every now and again, because it's a great way to get your, there's very few one-on-one direct battles anymore. And the front row, really do relish in that, the dark arts, and it is a great way of getting one up, and it's amazing the lift it gives a whole team if you manage to get on top of the scrum.
Are Ireland going to win on Saturday?
Honestly, I think so, yeah. I think it's an amazing New Zealand side that's been picked. I think the experience right the way through it, there's so many amazing battles, we've talked about them already. You know, the greatest second row in the world, Retallick, against probably the heir apparent in James Ryan, who, what a player this kid is, and every single thing that's expected of him, he does that and more. And then you've got the two best out halves in the world with Sexton, you know, and you know, that's the thing that you have to go with Bowden Barrett, and that's the way they play are slightly different. You know, Johnny Sexton, the master of pulling the trigger exactly when it needs to do, execution and plan, doing exactly what's needed to defeat a team. And Bowden Barrett probably much more of you know, off the cuff player. He's a nightmare for opposition defences, because you cannot take your eye off him for a split second, because he's one of the fastest players out there. And that's one of the most unusual things about a 10. Like, he's so quick and will exploit it, and also he has all the skills that you could possibly look for in a number 10. There's so many battles right the way through, but I genuinely think that this Irish side is a team now that don't accept defeat against any team. There's enough of history in the recent years, enough of memory within this team that they know the hurt of losing the way they have and what it feels like to win. So I genuinely think the home advantage, we will just see it through.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an absolute ding-dong battle, as you say. If you're in Lansdowne Road at the weekend, remember, Volkswagen, proud partner of Irish Rugby, are going to be putting Irish and New Zealand fans head-to-head in a rugby trivia quiz this Saturday at the Volkswagen Fan TV. That's the area on Lansdowne Road outside the Aviva Stadium. You can join Shane and test your rugby knowledge to win signed jerseys. For more information, see Volkswagen Ireland's social media
It'll be very
channels.
easy to win jerseys, basically.
Well, what's your rugby trivia like? Is it?
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So a very, very tough challenge for everybody who pops on down there. So make sure you do that if you're in the vicinity this weekend. Shane, thanks a million for popping in, and thanks a million for getting our hopes up. I'm liking the call on Saturday, predicting Ireland to win. Enjoy the game, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Yes, I will.